April 10th, 1912. The world's greatest ship stood ready. The Titanic, a floating palace of steel and luxury, prepared to set sail on her maiden voyage. Crowds gathered in awe, passengers boarded with pride, and few could imagine the shadow of destiny waiting across the Atlantic. This was no ordinary journey. This was the beginning of a legend. It was Wednesday morning, April 10th, 1912, when Titanic prepared to depart Southampton, England. The air buzzed with excitement. Thousands crowded the docks to see the ship off. For many, this was more than a sailing. It was a moment in history. Titanic was the pride of the White Star Line. At 882 feet long, weighing over 46,000 tons, and hailed as the unsinkable ship, she was the largest moving object humans had ever created. Her 4 towering funnels, 3 of them functional, were a statement of power and progress. On board were 2,200 souls, a mixture of the world's wealthiest elite, middle-class travelers, and hopeful emigrants chasing a new life in America. The decks echoed with footsteps, laughter, and the murmurs of a dream about to take flight across the sea. At precisely noon, Titanic's horn boomed across the harbor. Ropes were released, tugboats pulled her free, and slowly, majestically, she began to glide into the channel. The voyage of dreams had begun. But even on this triumphant morning, fate gave its first warning. As Titanic left Southampton, her immense size caused a suction effect in the narrow harbor. The moored liner SS New York was pulled from her berth, drifting dangerously toward Titanic. For a moment, panic spread. A collision on the first day would have been a disaster. Tugboats scrambled, ropes were cast, and at the last moment, disaster was averted. The ships passed safely, separated by a few feet of water. Passengers cheered with relief, though some whispered it was a bad omen. Still, Titanic pressed onward, bound for Cherbourg, France. That evening, Titanic anchored off Cherbourg. The harbor was too shallow for her to dock, so smaller tenders ferried passengers and mail to the ship. It was here that some of Titanic's most famous names boarded, millionaires like Benjamin Guggenheim and the widowed heiress Molly Brown. From Cherbourg, Titanic sailed overnight to Queenstown, Ireland, her final European stop. Hundreds of emigrants boarded, families clutching their few possessions. Their eyes filled with hope for a better life across the ocean. For many, this was the first and last glimpse of their homeland. By April 11th, with over 2,200 passengers and crew aboard, Titanic turned westward. The Atlantic lay before her, vast, endless, and to many, full of promise. As Titanic steamed into the open sea, life on board revealed the stark contrasts of her passengers. In first class, luxury reigned supreme. Passengers strolled through grand salons decorated in French styles, dined on the finest meals prepared by world-class chefs, and relaxed in Turkish baths, reading rooms, and a squash court. Men smoked cigars in opulent lounges, while women paraded in gowns and jewels, as if the ship itself were a ballroom drifting across the Atlantic. In second class, comfort and refinement defined the journey. These passengers enjoyed private cabins, fine dining, and libraries, accommodations superior to most first-class ships of the day. And then there was third class, where over 700 passengers crowded into modest bunks and shared dining halls. Yet for them, Titanic was still a miracle. Clean quarters, decent meals, and the promise of a future in America. In the evenings, fiddles played, songs were sung, and laughter filled the lower decks. For a brief time, the ship was a world united. Rich and poor alike carried by steel and steam toward tomorrow. The days passed smoothly. Titanic cut through calm waters at a steady speed of 21 knots. The weather was fine, the sea like glass. Many passengers marveled at how steady she was, hardly feeling the ocean's movement. Truly, she seemed invincible. Captain Edward Smith, nearing retirement, commanded with calm authority. He was a veteran of the seas, beloved by crew and passengers alike. Smith once said, "I cannot imagine any condition which would cause a ship to founder." Modern shipbuilding has gone beyond that. These words would haunt history. Meanwhile, in the Marconi room, operators Jack Phillips and Harold Bride tirelessly tapped out wireless messages, business, personal notes, greetings. Titanic's powerful radio could reach hundreds of miles, making her not only a ship, but a beacon of modern communication. To the passengers, it was a dream. To history, it was the calm before the storm. But even amid this joy, signs of danger approached. Titanic was headed into the North Atlantic, an area notorious for icebergs in April. Warnings began arriving by wireless from other ships, reports of heavy ice drifting south. Some messages reached the bridge, but many were delayed or ignored as routine. Passengers, of course, knew nothing of this. They continued their journey, unaware that each sunset brought them closer to tragedy. On April 14th, Titanic would receive her final warning. But for now, on those first days at sea, she remained the embodiment of human triumph, gliding through waters that had swallowed countless ships before her. The Titanic's maiden voyage was more than a journey across the Atlantic. It was a display of ambition, wealth, and hope. For some, it was a luxurious holiday. For others, a path to a new life. But beneath the glittering chandeliers and hopeful songs, the Atlantic waited. Titanic sailed forward, unaware that history's most infamous night was fast approaching. Thank you for joining us on this voyage through history. Titanic's story has only just begun. Subscribe to Dusk Times and stay with us as we continue the journey in Episode 3, where the warnings grow louder and the Atlantic reveals its true danger. Until then, this is Dusk Times.